Hello and welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host today, Ryan Bigelow, the Library Director for the Cottonwood Public Library. And today it is my pleasure to introduce Joan Bourque, our famous local muralist here around town. If you know or if you've seen any of our local artwork, odds are pretty good that Joan has had her hand in it or been the creator and designer. We recently were lucky enough to have Joan do some work at the Cottonwood Public Library. We're thrilled by it, by the way. It adds so much color and just adds such a great feel to our public space that we're very proud to have that, and we're very thankful that you were able to do that. So today we're going to talk to Joan a little bit about who Joan is and why she got here, and then what led her to then eventually creating that nice piece that you just got to see there at the Cottonwood Public Library, and then maybe even a little bit about what's next. So Joan, let's start from the beginning. You're not originally from Cottonwood. What brought you here, and what's keeping you here?
Well, Cottonwood is keeping me here for
Wonderful.
sure. I really thank you for your admiration there. It's been a dream of mine for a long time. I grew up out east, and I knew I wanted to be an artist. I tried a lot of different ways. I even lived in New York City for a long time, trying to show off there. But I tell you, nature is my calling. And I ended up in the Caribbean for about 15 years, scuba diving and making art down there. I did do some murals there. I continue to do murals there. But when it was time to come back to the States, my sister was living in Flagstaff. I said, hey, let's go see what's out there. And I said, I will not move where there is snow, however.
Snow.
So oddly enough, the first October we were here, it snowed. But
of course.
Anyway, so that was back in the mid-90s that we moved here, and have loved it ever since.
Right. So art in general, that's your calling, and nature art, but have you done any other types of art besides murals, and is that something you're still dabbling in, or are you just strictly murals at this point?
Good question. I've kind of gotten over in love with painting murals. It's a group project. I would work a lot with kids, with students in the schools, and it really is fun.
Right.
I do love being in my own studio at home, painting as well, but I don't take as much time as I used to do that. To do your more murals. And then nature, that our audience can see the photo that I took of what we've got at the Cottonwood Public Library. Clearly, there's a theme there with your work, not just with Cottonwood, our library, not just with what you've seen around, but tell us a little bit about nature and how that inspires you. Okay. Yeah, I think it saved me, actually, at one point in my life, living in New York City, getting kind of downtrodden on the lifestyle there, and the ability to market your work and even show your work is a challenge. Okay. And I wasn't up for that challenge. Nature called me, and that's kind of why I went to the Caribbean. You're surrounded by nature. Right. When I was there, I lived on a 5 square mile island.
Wonderful.
So not only did you were surrounded by water, mountains, trees, and a community, a real group of people who worked together, lived together, helped each other. And it made sense to me. That's what life is about.
And so there's some, and you can see that in your work, that it represents community, and I'm not sure if I'm sure that's intentional. I guess now that you just pull it all together, that there's a lot of cooperation involved. There's a lot of folks doing and active and living in these communities. That's intentional, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it turned out that way. I didn't sit down and say, hey, I'm going to do this because of this, this, and this. But when I first started a mural, I realized you've got different people helping you on different sides. And
Right.
I even admire this one student one time. When he came out to work on the mural, the teachers send a group of students out, and he said, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. But that's why you're here. Come on, I'll show you. Don't worry about it. No, can't
Right,
paint.
right.
Can't do that. No. And I said, well, okay, just a minute. I got to help these people over here. I came back to my little station. He had cleaned all the brushes. He had cleaned up the area. He was organizing my pictures. And I said, we have a place for you here.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and he was fine with that.
Right.
You know, it does take a community.
And you're so easy to talk to and so friendly. I can see how you can be one to persuade easily to come on, come get involved. You know,
Yeah.
It's really not that hard, and you've laid it out there where folks feel invited to actually do that, which is wonderful. So you're inspired by nature. You're kind of a traveler. Are your pieces, is your art anywhere beyond Cottonwood?
When I started with the murals, I actually got invited to other states, other schools, teachers that I knew that lived elsewhere, and the Phoenix schools. The number of them reached out to me. With the Arizona Commission on the Arts is a wonderful group that offers grants to artists, and what they're trying to do is get artists into the schools.
Okay.
And the mural project is the perfect way. So I would say for about 10 years after I learned about them, they supported probably 2 or 3 murals a year.
Oh, wow.
So whether it was here or Sedona or Phoenix area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we're anywhere in the state of Arizona, really, and we see a mural, we might want to say, "Hey, is that Joan's piece?"
It might be. Most of them are in schools.
Right.
But I have yet to. Well, Cottonwood was my first attempt at. Okay, let's do this outside in the city.
Okay.
And that was, of course, the Goodwill Mural.
Right.
In '04.
Okay.
And it was. I felt so welcome. I walked around, talked to some of the other stores and businesses, and said, "What do you think about this? This, you know, we're going to paint a mural. It's not going to, you know, be splashy. It's just going to be calm and a little bit about Cottonwood." And not only did they offer their ideas, but they offered cash, money, to help the artists that were doing this. Because I said, you know, we're doing this on our own,
right?
But we just want your input. And they said, okay, here's $100. Biggest welcome I could ever have.
They even got paid for it. So where else in Cottonwood? I know you've got several pieces where generally where the public can find your work here.
We finished, well, it was over a year ago now, the Verde Lee Market.
Okay.
They invited us over to paint there. And kind of across the street from there as you enter Old Town,
right? That
big community mural. Most of the schools you'll see, I know Cottonwood Community School, their mural is still out there. And this year alone I'm working on another mural there. They keep inviting me back. Yeah. And MVP, Mountain View Prep, is going to get some murals this year too.
So a big theme here I think we're hitting on is the schools too and the kids. So we'll of course talk about that a little bit more when we come back.
Okay.
I also want to take this time to thank 1AZ Credit Union. The Cottonwood Public Library was able to get a grant to help contribute to allow Joan to be able to do that at the Cottonwood Public Library. So we want to thank them and all they've been able to do to help. So we thank 1AZ for making that happen. And let's talk a little bit more about your artwork and the schools and the kids particularly when we come back. So we'll be right back. This is Inside Cottonwood, and we're talking with Miss Joan Bourque.
Thank you.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
Need a ride to work in Sedona? Hop on the new Verdi shuttle at the Cottonwood Library and ride to all the major employers in Sedona for just $2. It's just that easy. Looking to get back to work? Sedona has jobs and the Verdi shuttle gets you there every 45 minutes. It's just that easy. Working late? The Verdi shuttle runs until 10:30 and offers a free after-hours shuttle in Cottonwood. It's just that easy. Check out verdishuttle.com for details or ask Google Maps for transit directions. It's just that easy.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host today, Ryan Bigelow, the Library Director for the Cottonwood Public Library. And joining me is Miss Joan Bourque, famous local muralist, I like to say. And I say famous because when I heard who was going to potentially be working with us at the library, and it was the same artist who did the Verdi Lee and everything in Old Town, I thought, well, aren't we lucky? Yeah, aren't we lucky? We're going to have an opportunity for something like that. So that's great. So before we got into a break, we started talking a little bit about kids and how you've been interacting with the schools. That's clearly an inspiration for you. It's also a nice time to mention that you're not actually done at the Cottonwood Public Library. You've had the main pieces out in our adult area, so to speak, but you've got a couple pieces in the kids area and working on some more. So we're really excited to see that come to fruition and what that looks like. But tell us a little bit about the kids and how you're working with kids to create art.
Okay. Yeah, they're a great audience and they're great responders. I mean, how many times do you get asked, what if you had the world to tell a story to, what would you tell them? Right. And believe me, they like to talk. And my job then is to sort of transfer that into number one, a group project, number two, into pictures, into images, to get it out there and make it bigger than life. Right. And to watch the pride that the kids have in their work is something that just, moves me. Right. And the process that we go through is very pragmatic. It helps them learn about planning. Okay. Okay. We're going to talk first. We're going to decide what it is we want to say. Then we're going to decide how to say it. Then we're going to decide pictures, people, scenery, how is that going to come out? And that whole process is something we all need in life. And I'm not sure that students get to do that so often, but go through the steps. And they do it so well. They really do. So my guess is that students come into the process maybe a little intimidated, maybe thinking, oh my gosh, seeing your final results and thinking there's no way I can be a part of that. The reaction at the end then is even more gratifying. Absolutely. Yeah, very, very good point. We plan drawings. We use other subjects, whether it be historical, things that they've learned in school. Math is a big one, and I love using math because a lot of people think that us artists don't use math. Well, we do. Well, I'm guilty. I never would have thought that you'd be doing math with this art, but how do you incorporate that? Well, a lot of times they'll say, well, I want a picture of people shaking hands. Okay. I said, okay, let's take a picture. We take a picture of a couple of the kids in poses, then we print them out. Well, we've got to make them now 6 feet tall. How do we do that? We take a grid, we talk about measuring, and then we look at each grid an inch at a time, and we make it a foot square on the mural. Okay. So it is easier to draw. And the proportions get set for you. Okay. Even in that drawing process, well, what about, how does that line look? Well, it's an angle. What angle? About a 45-degree angle.
Okay.
Okay, so they learn about that. Shapes. Would you say that's kind of an oval coming in there, right?
Right.
Yep, oval, not a circle, an oval. And they realize after that, you know, that they have used math, and they're very proud.
Isn't that funny? Because I know I have kids, and they're constantly, the number one complaint is, when am I ever going to use this, right? But here's a fine example of an area that is completely probably the opposite of mathematics in art, that you're actually applying it all the time.
Yes.
My oldest is in college, and she's taking an art appreciation class. I said, you know, you don't have to draw, don't worry about it. The first thing she needs to do is order an art kit, and she's terrified by having to draw, thinking she's going to be graded on the art. But come to find out, a part of art appreciation is actually doing the art and doing the best that you can do, and figuring out that, one, it's probably not as hard as you thought, but two, it can be whatever you want it to be, right?
Right, right. One step at a time. And that's one of the things I like to find out from the kids. They say, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that. I said, well, here, let's, you know, we're going to blend this color, we're going to put it down, we're going to, now you take that brush and move it in between those two colors. And they are amazed.
Right.
That they made, that they could do that.
That they made that. Well, that's wonderful, and we got to get our kids to be able to experience all of that, right? And to be able to have that. You've traveled around the world. You're a traveler. You tie that back into with the kids too, right? And it kind of gives them a different area to go to. Maybe they're drawing something that place they've never been, but their imagination can take them there.
I had an experience with South Verde High. Is Camp Verde High School, an alternate Camp Verde High School, and I took a group of students to Seba with me.
Wonderful.
Working on a mural there. And I was very surprised at one of the young boys that was there. Was very shy. And he came out of his shell. How did that happen, you know? There he is in a foreign country, painting a mural with kids from that country, and all of them chatting and admiring each other.
It was the art and the process that kind of brought them together.
Yes.
Man, I love how you talk about planning and about just, it's a project management process too.
Oh, it is.
And the scale of it all. Is there a group of kids that you feel like gain the most out of it? Is it teenagers? Is it young kids? Or is it just kids in general?
Good question.
Sorry, I didn't write that one down in advance.
I think kids in general, but each age group learns something new.
Right.
I think the young ones learn that they can produce a masterpiece. I love the little child who brings his parent to the mural when it's finished and says, "Mom, Dad, look at what I did." and teenagers definitely they walk into the project with quite a bit of pride, but you can see that there's a little bit of, can I really do this?
Right.
And slowly but surely they do. And the other thing teenagers do, they unify themselves. They learn to work as a group. And maybe they weren't sure about that student, blah, 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 but at the end of they're all one. They help each other a lot.
Well, that's wonderful. There's so many things that these kids are learning through this art process, and I think the world just needs more of that right now, right? that things that bring us together, things that help us learn together collectively, collaboratively. So, really excited that the Cottonwood Public Library gets to be a small part of that. So, well, let's take a break here. But we'll come back and let's talk about projects that are in the future. Okay. What might be next, and particularly, obviously, you still got some projects at the library. So let's chat. Okay. We'll be right back. This is Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Ryan Bigelow, And we'll talk more with Joan here in just 1 second.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
Looking for a ride to Sedona? Hop on the new Verde shuttle at the Cottonwood Library and go everywhere you want to go in West Sedona, uptown, and south to Poco Diablo Resort. It's just that easy. Looking for a better way to commute between Cottonwood and Sedona? The Verde shuttle buses are brand new. A cool, clean, comfortable ride for only $2 each way or $3 for an all-day pass. It's just that easy. Check out details at verdeshuttle.com or ask Google Maps for transit directions. It's just that easy.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host Ryan Bigelow, the Library Director at the Cottonwood Public Library, and we've got our famous muralist Joan Bourque with us. And we've been talking about kids and how our kids are interacting and getting involved in your murals and the art. I'm really excited that there's still more prospects at the Cottonwood Public Library. You were able to meet our new teen librarian Elizabeth the other day and discuss some potential projects. What are you looking for next, and what's happening next at the Cottonwood Public Library?
Right. Well, there is a reading room there
Wonderful.
that calls for a mural, and the students have already voiced their creative juices on that one, and they've been talking about sort of like a tree.
Okay.
Maybe even a tree house to make it feel as though you're outdoors under the tree.
Wonderful.
Sitting there reading and soaking it all in.
Great. Well, that's one of the goals for, I know, Elizabeth, our new teen librarian, and for myself, is to make sure that the kids are a part of the process, and let's get their vision out there, and let's make that space their own, and all of the things that you've been talking about. We can incorporate there with our teens and our teen volunteers, and let them take some pride in the space and think about how they were involved in that process. So I'm really excited about that. That's wonderful. That's one of the projects that you've got next. What else is coming up for Joan?
Well, it's a busy year.
Good.
I'm trying to fit in a trip to Saba, my island at home. They've got some murals there that have faded, and so they want them revitalized, and a few more put up. But yeah, I'm working very closely with Steve King, the superintendent.
Wonderful.
And with Matt Schumacher over at the Cottonwood Community School. We've done a few murals there, and the kids have just started their chats, their conversations for another mural.
Great.
And this time we're trying kind of a new scheme of things where students create their own bubble, if you will, of their vision of their community. So we're talking about different artists who have done this in the past. They're getting a little art history, and they're working on it. We're getting to see that.
Well, that is just that hits just what we're trying to do. I think bringing the community together. A lot of the discussion at the City of Cottonwood level, anyways, is keeping that hometown feel, the community activities. This is it right here. You know, getting those kids involved, seeing what their vision is of Cottonwood. It's also about creating that hometown pride. So you know, when they come back and they have their own kids, you know, that mural is still there. Maybe somebody has to come and paint it again and make it vibrant again, but they can have pride in that piece and say, you know, this is something that your mom did, and maybe their kids will continue to do it. So that's
I've had students ask me, are they ever going to paint over this? I said, well, no, that's not the purpose of it, you know. It's going to last. You mean when I grow up and I come back here, it'll still be? I said, yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of the vision, right?
Absolutely.
Let's look at that far ahead, see yourself that far ahead, and see that something that you've done and you've helped create is still here.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. So busy year. You've got Cottonwood Community School. You've brought, is it a book that you have with you?
Yeah, my Dreams of Dolphins Dancing, and I've done the illustrations for it. But this came as a result of when our daughter was 6 years old, we were, my husband and I were scuba diving, and then our daughter did some snorkeling with us, and lo and behold, we found a lone wild dolphin. And she, the dolphin, would not leave my daughter alone. It was one of those, they almost started a game, hide and seek kind of thing, follow me and blah, blah, blah. And it just spurred, I guess what authors get spurred in their brain. I wanted, again, to talk about the ocean community and how we need to keep it safe. And so that was my gift to kids. I'm starting a new one. Again, it's called Everything I Need to Know I Learned While Painting Murals with Kids. I cannot help but write down some of the pleasures and the ideas that come up. If I could read one to you.
Absolutely, please do.
Well, here's one. There are no mistakes, only chances to learn. This lesson hit me hard during my daughter's teenage years. I was worried about her choices and attitudes. I was fearful that she would make mistakes. Our counselor asked me how I handled mistakes on a mural. Well, I said, there are no mistakes when you're in the creative process. I said, we discuss it in terms of the original mural concept. Does it take away from, or does it add to the whole effect of the mural? Some said it adds something unique and new. Others offer ways to work it into the whole student's artwork. Just like my daughter's choices and actions in life are part of the mix. They offer opportunities to learn.
Thank you.
Lesson learned.
Yeah,
for me.
right. Yeah. And we all need to hear that a little bit, particularly parents. We can get lost in how we're parenting and what's happening.
Absolutely.
My daughter tells me all the time, who I'm not sure how she became a Bob Ross fan, but now is a Bob Ross fan, and one of his famous sayings is, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents.
Yes.
And we use that at our house all the time for learning.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
No, I use Bob Ross a lot too when I'm talking to the kids. They're more worried about making a mistake, and I said, no, you just put your paintbrush on there. If it doesn't work out, we can always paint over it or try or blend it into something new.
Yeah, we get paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake, but art can be a great example of how you use that mistake to continue to create and continue to move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to tell those kids it's okay to make mistakes because you'll learn from it and you'll move forward.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big lesson, huh?
Yeah. Well, we all need to do a little bit better at that.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So we're excited when that book comes out. Please let us know so the Cottonwood Public Library can make sure and have a copy, and hopefully you'll continue to be a participant in our Author Expo.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk to you about that because it's the kind of book I'm not sure who's going to read it and why it's going to be read.
Well, parents should read it, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but we'll have you and try to incorporate you, obviously, in the programs that we do. You're just a joy to be around, and we love having you and love having you participate in whatever the library has going on. So,
thank you.
Do you have any final thoughts? Anything that we missed that we wanted to make sure and touch on?
No. Other than, I'm open. I'm open for ideas.
Okay.
I love to have even more adult community involvement as well. So if there's anybody that's got an idea for their building, people have told me I have a Napoleon complex, if you know what that means. Yep. Because I am a small person, I do like to paint on large walls. So
if you've got a big wall, we need to find a spot for Joan. So Joan, well, it's been a pleasure. That is the time we've been allowed here. We could probably go on for hours. This has been one of the most fun Inside Cottonwoods I've had.
Thanks.
I'm Ryan Bigelow. This has been Inside Cottonwood. We were talking to Joan Bourque, our local artist and muralist. Thank you for listening today, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.